Tiffany's life was going smoothly until her beloved husband Michael passed away. Life lost its joy, and the vast wealth left behind by her husband only seemed to deepen her boredom and monotony. Her days played out in a boring rhythm. A breakfast of lactose-free milk, gym training, an hour of Pilates. By lunchtime it felt as though a week had passed instead of just 5 to 6 hours. Tiffany seemed to be rushing through life, trying futilely to outrun her painful loss and the haunting memories. "Tiffany, you can't keep living like this. It's been a year and a half. How long will you neglect your life?" Over afternoon coffee, Tiffany's friend tried once more to convince the widow that life wasn't over, particularly at her age of 37. "Heidi, stop pressing on the sore point. I exercise and go to the park almost every evening. What more do you want? I'm tired of your lectures." Tiffany didn't want to upset her friend, who had supported her all this time, but she was too drained to hold back, and her emotions spilled over. Heidi understood everything. She ignored the harsh words of her best friend, with whom she had been close since high school. Their friendship had been tested time and again, experiencing both highs and lows. Heidi was confident that they would weather this storm too, yet she couldn't ignore her friend's best years seemingly slipping away. "Do you think sports and walks are the solution, Tiffany? You only leave the house to escape reminders of Michael. You're running from yourself, not living fully." "And what options do I have? I don't have children or a husband now." Tiffany struggled with the concept of moving on. Overwhelmed by her circumstances, she wondered how to start afresh when so much had happened. "You can still have kids. If things with Michael didn't work out after all these years, there must be a reason. Maybe fate intervened, preventing the birth of children in your family." Heidi's harsh words were deliberate, an attempt to jolt her friend's rationality. "I've pondered over that myself, but if I had a child with Michael, I would have lived for him. I would have—" Tiffany was cut off by a doorbell, her thoughts instantly scattered. Tiffany looked through the intercom, but she didn't recognize the person standing outside, so she asked, "Who's there?" "Is this Tiffany Jackson's place?" was the answer to her question. "Identify yourself before asking questions, young man." "Apologies, I'm Lee, a courier. I have a package for Tiffany Jackson," the courier said, feeling a bit awkward. Tiffany peered through the intercom once more, and indeed saw a large box. There was no longer any hesitation about whether to open the door. "Yes, I'm Tiffany Jackson," she confirmed as she opened the door. "Please sign here." The courier handed her a pen and a signature sheet. "And by the way, today is my first day on the job, so I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning. I hope that didn't inconvenience you. I promise to be more considerate from now on." "It's okay, Lee. It happens to everyone. Have a lovely day. Goodbye," replied Tiffany. She carried the package to the kitchen, where her friend was already eager to know more. "Well, what is it? Who's it from?" Heidi asked. "I don't know, Heidi," replied the surprised Tiffany, clueless about the mystery sender's identity. "Tiffany, let's hurry up and open the parcel. It's such a large box." Heidi encouraged the confused Tiffany. Finally, the box was opened. Both friends gasped as they saw the children's items inside. "This is ridiculous. Why would I need baby clothes? Maybe there's been a mix-up. We need to catch up with the courier and ask." Tiffany rushed towards the door, but stopped when she heard her friend shout, "Tiffany, there's a letter. It says it's for you. Let's read it quickly or the suspense will drive us mad." Tiffany hesitantly began to open the envelope, a sense of dread washing over her. She had an intuitive feeling that it held nothing but bad news. Time seemed to stand still as her eyes scanned the words. "Hello, Tiffany. This is Deanna. You probably don't know me. Michael wanted to tell you about our family, but feared it would hurt you. His love for you faded long ago, but his respect for you as a person remained. His life with you caused me pain throughout the years, as it did to our son. Yes, Tom is Michael's and my son. They loved each other deeply. Michael was an exceptional father. I'm writing this letter because I am at a loss. I hesitated to reach out, wondering if it was necessary, and then I realized it was necessary. You never had children, though I know you wanted to. Michael was upset about it. He yearned for a child, but you couldn't give him that joy. When he pursued me, he expressed a desire to have a child immediately. My love for him was instantaneous, so it didn't take long for us to act. Michael was wealthy and successful. Who would refuse to bear the child of such a man? I'm writing to you for a different reason, though. Michael left a substantial amount of money for Tom and me after his death. However, it proved to be less than it seemed. I am young and beautiful, and I have daily expenses for skin and body care, healthy food and trendy clothes. The money just seemed to evaporate. I'm sure you, as his legal wife, inherited much more. Please share some of it with us, without resorting to legal battles. After all, Tom is Michael's son, and you should be concerned about his future. If you're unwilling to settle this amicably, we may need to take more drastic measures. But why waste money and time on lawyers? I hope you understand my position and won't refuse my modest request to assist my son and me. Is this a joke? Heidi was in such shock at what she had heard that she couldn't bring herself to believe what was happening. Heidi, pour me something stronger. Tiffany, taken aback by the news, managed to request from her best friend. Heidi rinsed 2 glasses and filled them with a fitting sedative for the situation. Yes, Tiffany, I didn't expect this from your husband. If it's not someone's cruel joke, then your beloved turned out to be a cheat, Heidi lamented. Tiffany ignored Heidi's lamentations. She was confused by how she had failed to notice for so long that her husband was cheating on her, and even had a second family with a child. Heidi, I want to be alone. Tiffany interrupted abruptly and tersely. Of course, dear. If you need anything, call any time, day or night. Igor and I will always be here to support and help you. Heidi hugged Tiffany and headed for the exit, thinking about how lucky she was to have a faithful husband and 2 children. On the other hand, she was deeply hurt for her best friend, whose family also seemed perfect. Sure, they didn't have children, but Michael adored Tiffany. How did this happen? There was no excuse for the cheater, but there were more questions than answers. A few weeks passed after the terrible news. Tiffany completely stopped going to the gym. Life became even more unbearable. Memories of her husband, once a source of sorrow, now only brought chaos, confusion, and grudge. Tiffany woke up thinking about Deanna and her son. Every morning she remembered that damned letter and those children's things, which had long ago ended up in the dumpster outside Tiffany's house. Tiffany couldn't comprehend how Deanna had the audacity to write to her. Why should she care about the child born from her deceased husband's affair? The idea of sharing property and money with a woman who knowingly had an affair with her husband was incomprehensible. Tiffany definitely decided she wouldn't give a penny to Deanna. Her grief over her husband's death was slowly turning into anger and resentment. What's even happening? Tiffany found herself shouting aloud in her empty apartment. You fool! Get up from this couch. Start a new life. Don't walk. Run. Live. She continued to berate herself. Stop mourning over the cheaters. Deanna, you can go to hell. You won't get a dime. Learn not to sleep with married men. Did you mention lawyers? Honey, you won't have enough money for a good lawyer. When her anger subsided, Tiffany suddenly realized that she wasn't as old or hopeless as she had thought. This revelation sparked the idea of going on a date. Despite her previous reluctance to let anyone close after her husband's death, she now saw this as a missed opportunity. Without further thought, the still young and wealthy widow decided to venture into online dating. Despite the risks associated with dating sites, they provided the easiest way to find a companion. She hoped to rekindle her zest for life through these interactions. In no time, she had created her profile and uploaded photos. The only task remaining was to sift through the numerous suitors and find the most deserving one. Eugene, aged 55, was the first to write. Despite the nearly 20-year age difference, he did not appear uncomfortable, but Tiffany, with her plans about children and happy, active, joint future, was not inspired by such a person. Then came messages one after another. Young guys tried to test their fate, noticing expensive jewelry on a lady much older than them. After a couple of hours, Tiffany was finally drawn to a message from a man named Nick, who appeared to be around 40 years old. The photo revealed a tall, athletic, confident man in his prime. "Hi, I'm Nick, 40 years old, unmarried, no children. Would you like to chat?" His message read, succinct and straightforward. "Hi, I'm Tiffany, a 37-year-old widow with no children either. Of course I'd like to chat. That's why we're here, to meet new people." Tiffany responded, trying not to appear too formal and hide her lack of experience with men. Nick didn't reply for about 3 hours, leading Tiffany to believe he was uninterested in their acquaintance. "Good evening, Tiffany. I've been swamped with work. If not for the internet, I wouldn't find a spare moment to meet a decent woman. I'm not fond of online communication, so perhaps we could meet for coffee in an hour?" Nick, as it seemed to Tiffany, was not some frivolous online slacker, but a serious man who valued his time. "Good evening. Why not?" Tiffany replied. They exchanged contacts and planned a meeting. Nick proposed to pick her up in his car, but for safety reasons, Tiffany decided she would drive herself to the restaurant. As an hour wasn't sufficient for her to freshen up and travel, the meeting was pushed 2 hours later. As she showered, Tiffany found herself surprisingly excited and anticipative of the upcoming date. Michael's mistress, their son, and her whole past life all seemed to have vanished. The affluent, slender woman easily chose her attire. The warm and dry spring weather worked in Tiffany's favour. She picked an elegant yet playful dark blue dress that highlighted her features, particularly her deep blue eyes. With brighter makeup and sweeter perfume, Tiffany was ready to charm her date from the website. Just in case, she decided to call her friend Heidi and inform her about her plans for the evening. At 20, you often just rush headlong into dates without much thought. By 37, common sense prevails, preventing such reckless ventures. "Hi, Heidi, I'm going on a date, but don't ask me anything yet. I don't even have the answers myself, and I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do." Then Tiffany relayed the restaurant's address, her date's name, and other potentially useful details. The street was lit by streetlights, but their glow wasn't enough to drive without straining one's eyes. Suddenly, Tiffany felt a jolt as her bumper was hit, and only by quickly pressing the brake, she was able to avoid a collision with the stone fence lining the road. Dressed elegantly and wearing 10-centimeter stiletto heels, Tiffany rushed out of the car to assess the situation. Few cars were on the suburban route, and everyone seemed to hurriedly drive home without acknowledging the incident. To her horror, Tiffany spotted a man lying on the curb, not far from her car. She felt the ground slip from beneath her feet, as thoughts of being imprisoned for manslaughter filled her mind. "Wake up! Come to your senses, I'm begging you!" Tiffany pleaded, and the man suddenly showed signs of life. Tiffany moved closer, but she hesitated to touch him. She knew from her school first aid lessons to avoid moving an injured person until medical help arrives, unless there's a life-threatening danger. However, she soon regretted leaning over the man. He reeked of alcohol, unkempt body, and typical street smells. "I'm all right," the man mumbled. "What? All right? I'm sorry, for heaven's sake, I didn't see you." Tiffany didn't know what else to say. It's all right. It was my fault. I jumped in front of your tires. What? On purpose? You're insane. I could go to jail because of you. Tiffany was clearly unprepared for such a confession. You're so beautiful. I think I'm in love. The man was slowly regaining his senses and struggling to his feet. What are you talking about? You're drunk out of your mind. I'm calling the ambulance and the police. They will come and sort things out, Tiffany stated, realizing she couldn't easily escape this situation. Please, I don't need an ambulance, and I won't report you. It's my own fault. I'm all right. Let me write a waiver of hospitalization and a statement stating I have no claims. And you will just allow me to shower at your house, clean up, disinfect my abrasion, and we can resolve this issue once and for all. Do you agree? The homeless man proposed. I'm not a paramedic. What if something happens? Tiffany was taken aback by the unexpected proposal, but was forced to agree, as she preferred this arrangement over lengthy legal procedures. Due to all this mess, Tiffany completely forgot about the date with Nick. Speaking with him, she missed many calls or messages from him. My name is Bradley. What's yours? The man in the back seat broke the silence first. Huh? What? Oh, yes, I'm Tiffany. Sorry, I was lost in thought. Tiffany was clearly disoriented and barely aware of her surroundings. It's a beautiful name, just like you. Truly stunning. The man continued to compliment her, but Tiffany ignored him. Tiffany, I'm serious. When I opened my eyes and saw you in that gorgeous dress, so fabulous, I wanted to live. I think your beauty pulled me back from the other side. Thank you, but I'm really not in the mood for compliments right now, Tiffany replied, her thoughts elsewhere. Okay, I get it. I'll be quiet then. The rest of the journey was quiet, and they soon arrived at their destination. Come in, Bradley. I suggest you take a shower first, then I'll set the table for a late dinner, Tiffany said, unsure of how to politely but quickly direct her unexpected and poorly scented guest towards the shower. Yes, I agree. Can I have a towel? Just a second. Tiffany left the hall and returned not only with a towel but also a bathrobe. I don't think it'll fit me. I'm taller and bigger than you. Bradley smiled. Well, at least try it on. Your clothes, I'm afraid I'll have to throw them away. By the way, the robe belonged to my husband. He wasn't as tall as you, but it's better than nothing. I'll also grab some clothes for you from his closet. There must be something left. Tiffany tried to keep her composure despite the discomforting thought of a dirty and smelly man in her pristine, expensive bathroom. And why isn't he here? Did he leave such a gorgeous woman? What an idiot! Bradley called out from the bathroom. Tiffany retreated to the kitchen, sank onto the chair, wrapped her arms around her head, and surrendered to despair. Why is all this happening? Why me? Did I really deserve such a fate? My husband cheated, then died, and now there's a homeless man in my apartment. Life is just spiraling downwards. It can't get any worse. The sound of water subsided, and Tiffany realized that now she would have to somehow find common ground with a stranger before he left. She heard footsteps leading into the kitchen. Do you prefer meat, or... she started, but lost her words. The widow, who had not seen a man's body in quite some time, was stunned by the sight of the half-naked man standing in the doorway of her kitchen. Her heart pounded wildly, and her temperature soared. There was no trace of that street-scented homeless man. Meat or what? The man continued her incomplete sentence. I eat anything, so no need for any special dishes. Sandwiches will do. But could you first tend to my abrasions? I need to take you to a doctor. This is serious. Tiffany snapped out of her momentary daze, realizing the severity of Bradley's injuries. No, I've been in more dangerous situations before. It will heal quickly enough, like a dog does. You saved my life today. If it weren't for you, I'd be gone. Fate has decided to give me another chance, Bradley stated firmly. Sit here on the chair. I've prepared the first aid kit. Let's see what we can do. Tiffany suggested, pulling her robe down to reveal a muscular physique that even her ex-husband couldn't match. The wound is very deep. What if it's more serious than it looks? The doctor should... Don't worry so much, Bradley interrupted. Just bandage it up, and that's all. Okay. Can I ask you something? Tiffany asked, her curiosity overriding her anxiety. About what? How did I end up like this? Why did I smell like a garbage dump mixed with sewage? Is that what you're wondering? Bradley laughed. You're the one who said it. I would have asked more politely. So what happened? You don't need to know that. You saved me, cleaned me up. Thank you. Bradley made it clear that it was best to leave the topic alone. The evening was shaping up to be long and awkward. Tiffany found it difficult to make sense of the situation. A handsome, confident man who was homeless. It didn't add up. People do lose their homes and businesses, ending up in dire straits, but it is rare that a person so dramatically, morally, and physically sink. It is necessary to despair to the point of no return. It was possible to guess for a long time. The truth, anyway, could not be found out, because the guest was clearly not desiring an open conversation. Tiffany, what happened to your husband? Bradley asked. He is dead, the woman replied succinctly, which took Bradley surprised. He didn't ask any further. Do you live alone? You've got a fancy car, a high-end apartment, designer clothes from your husband. Did you inherit all this? Bradley continued to probe, trying to understand his rescuer better. Are you suggesting that I'm a kept woman? No, that's not it. I've worked all my life and supported my husband in everything. After his death, I gave up my business, and now I live on interest from my assets and savings. I've got enough, though. I see. I didn't mean to offend. I'm sorry. You looked quite dressed up today. Were you going on a date? Bradley asked. Exactly. Good heavens, I forgot. There was a man waiting for me, Tiffany exclaimed as she ran out of the hall and into the hallway to retrieve her purse. Checking her phone, she found 5 missed calls and 2 messages. She immediately dialed Nick to explain her absence. Hi, Nick, I've been in an accident. I apologize. It's been quite a mess. Have you been waiting long? She started the conversation emotionally. Not to worry. How are you? I was concerned. Are you hurt? Nick asked, clearly worried. No, I hit a man, but he's okay now. You hit a man? Tiffany, this is serious. I have connections. Do you want me to call and help sort everything out? Nick offered, showing his responsible and caring nature. No, Nick. Thank you, but everything's been resolved. I'm really sorry. I hope we can still meet next time and get to know each other better. The two said their warm goodbyes. Tiffany was impressed with Nick. They hadn't met yet, but she already felt that he was someone special. Her thoughts were interrupted by Bradley. Tiffany, I tried on the tracksuit you found for me. It's a bit tight, but it's better than what I was wearing. I'm glad it fits you, she replied. Then I'll go. Thank you for returning me to life. I met you and reassessed my values. You're an incredible woman. Bradley said affectionately, moving a little closer to the woman. Where are you going to go at this hour? I can't kick you out after the accident. Rest for the night. We'll figure things out tomorrow. Tiffany was hesitant to let Bradley leave. He didn't have a phone or any other means of communication. What if his condition worsened? However, these thoughts were tangled with other absurd ones. The lonely woman, yearning for male companionship, desired to feel the masculine presence in her empty apartment for as long as possible, especially since the guest was quite attractive, which was slowly making her lose her sense of reason. Can a random man really make my heart race? Tiffany pondered, caught in a limbo between reality and illusory feelings. Are you serious? I didn't expect such an offer. I'll be bold and accept it without any regrets, Bradley replied. A few hours passed and the unusual couple, a homeless man and a rich lady, had already discussed many topics, some of which were quite personal and even inappropriate at times. "Tiffany, it's so easy to converse with you. It feels like my wounds have healed, and I found a new purpose in life," the man said as he tucked the blanket into the duvet cover without interrupting their conversation. "Thank you. I feel a bit calmer too," Tiffany lied. She found it difficult to stay calm next to a man with such an appealing physique. "Why didn't we meet sooner? I would have married you without a second thought," Bradley exclaimed. "Don't be silly. Do you think you could make me favour you?" she retorted. "Yes, I do. I might be a bum now, but—" Bradley didn't finish his sentence. Tiffany didn't pry. She understood that he was withholding something. "Well, it's late, and better to go to bed. Today was a long day. Tomorrow I'll either buy you some clothes or we can order some online together. They should be delivered within a day." Tiffany bid her guest good night and retreated to her bedroom. Sleep eluded her as the day's events whirled in her mind, making it feel as though the world had turned upside down. Suddenly, Tiffany heard the door to her room opened and felt a man's hand on her arm. She realized she had wanted this. After a passionate night, sleep claimed her. It was a peaceful sleep, as if she was in the arms of the King of Dreams, not just an ordinary man named Bradley. Tiffany awoke late in the morning, feeling disconnected and weak. As the events of the previous night flooded back, she lost all desire to stay in bed. Disturbed by her thoughts and the realization of waking up alone, she sprang up. Bradley was nowhere to be found. Panic gripped the bewildered widow as she searched the apartment for her unusual guest. Whether fortunately or unfortunately, he was not there. Suddenly, she noticed the mess. It looked as though every cupboard had been searched, her wardrobe rummaged through, and most importantly, her jewellery box was empty. "Oh my, what have I done? Who did I let in the house?" Tiffany exclaimed, with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Overwhelmed with shame, the idea of calling the police seemed ludicrous. She had invited a homeless man into her house, and worse, she had shared a bed with him. Tiffany wished the ground would swallow her up. Even her late husband's betrayal paled in comparison to this. After thinking for a while, she decided to do nothing. The safe containing her money remained unopened, meaning her bank cards and large sums of money were intact. The only damage was to her pride and ego. The incessant vibration of her phone interrupted her thoughts. Hesitantly, she decided to answer the call. "Tiffany, wake up! I've been dying to know how your date went. How was Nick?" Heidi's impatience was palpable. "Hi, listen, it was fine. Can we talk about it later? I need some time alone tonight, just to clear my head," Tiffany responded. "Hey, dear, is everything okay? Did he do something to you? If he did, you need to stand up to him," Heidi pressed on. "No, Heidi, everything's fine. He's the best man I've met in years. It's just that things are changing, and it's a bit overwhelming. I need some time to process it all." Tiffany managed to convince her friend to give her some space. They said their goodbyes, but Tiffany had only questions swirling around in her mind. What am I going to do? Tiffany started cleaning up the mess made by Bradley, and to distract herself from sad thoughts, she decided to turn on the TV. The music channel was blaring with the grating voices of today's underperforming singers, so she switched to a news channel covering current events. The kitchen was the only place that hadn't been damaged. Apparently, the bum took a good look at it last night during dinner and didn't find anything of value. Tiffany began cleaning the living room where the intruder had slept, or pretended to sleep. On the coffee table, Tiffany found her sleeping pills. That's probably why she slept so soundly that she didn't hear any noise during the night. New theft schemes have been identified within the capital and its suburban. Law enforcement agencies ask all drivers to be extra vigilant on the roads in the evening, the news reported. Crime stories always piqued Tiffany's interest, so she shifted her attention from the window to the TV screen. The girl from the news program, meanwhile, continued to reveal the details of the case. A gang of swindlers disguised as homeless people are pulling off an uncomplicated acting stunt. A man dressed up in a homeless person's outfit throws a bag of rubble under the wheels of an approaching car in the semi-darkness. Everything happens so quickly that the driver doesn't have time to see the object ramming the bumper on impact. The dazed driver stops the car, and then the real spectacle begins. The swindler lies down on the roadside and pretends to be dying. In the second scheme, the swindler convinces that he wanted to end his life. In all cases, they ask not to call the police and ambulance. Tiffany stood listening to the news, and her legs were treacherously shaking. She didn't want to believe what she was hearing. It was as if the news anchor were revealing all the secrets of last night at Tiffany's house. The next point on their agenda is asking for shelter for a few hours to clean up, treat their wounds, and rob their victims. Stay alert and make sure to call the police and an ambulance if you're involved in an accident. Those who can assist in the investigation are urged to provide all available information to law enforcement. More on this later in the news. Tiffany Jackson, a former businesswoman, fell for such a cheap trick. She was disgusted with herself, but the wounds on the swindler's body were real. Could this scum be so well prepared? Tiffany found herself not only recalling Bradley's words, but also his sculpted body, which she had admired for half the night, not suspecting such a cruel setup. Suddenly there was a call on the intercom. Tiffany looked at the screen and saw the courier who had delivered some not-so-good news a few weeks ago. "Hello, Lee, right?" Tiffany asked as she opened the door. "Good afternoon. Remember me? Nice to meet you. There's another package for you. Please sign here." Lee glowed because he liked this woman very much after the first meeting, although she was older than him. "One more bad news. I wish those packages get lost along the way. I wouldn't mind," Tiffany smirked, recognizing the sender. "I'm sorry," Lee said, not understanding the situation and feeling a bit embarrassed. "You're such a humble little guy, always so sweetly embarrassed. Okay, thanks for the delivery. Have a wonderful day," Tiffany said, bidding the courier goodbye. She was in no rush to open the package. She wasn't concerned about her husband's affairs today. However, a couple of hours later, she regretted not opening it sooner. Tiffany spotted a large cockroach on the hallway wall. Fear swept over her. There weren't just one, but several cockroaches scattered around the apartment. Tiffany looked at the package from Deanna and was horrified. Cockroaches were crawling out of it, as if it held 100 of them. "What nerve! I'll show her!" Tiffany was livid. Around 30 minutes later, the pest control service arrived, and they swiftly eliminated all insects from the apartment. The furious woman decided not to wait any longer, but to confront her adversary immediately. She dialed her family lawyer and requested a meeting that day. A few hours later, Tiffany found herself in the office of a highly skilled specialist. "You knew about her? Seriously?" Tiffany was speechless. "Yes, Mrs. Jackson, but you have no cause for concern. Frankly, I have my suspicions that this is not his son," the lawyer said, clearly hiding something. But Tiffany needed to uncover the whole truth. "Not his son? What makes you think that? If you have any crucial information, please share it with me. Deanna started threatening me and even sent insects to my house. I don't take her seriously, but she does make my life difficult occasionally. I want to get rid of her once and for all," Tiffany expressed, determined not to leave the office without answers. "Threatening? That's a different conversation. I think she's a simple con artist who conned your husband out of his money. Now that he's dead, she's trying to extort money from you, right? And about the child, my assistant have seen Deanna with a young man her age several times. The child looks exactly like him. I'm convinced she was already pregnant when she met your husband." Maybe their meeting was a set-up too. Deanna played on your husband's weakness, i.e. the lack of children. The lawyer passed off assumptions as facts, giving Tiffany no reason to doubt him. She realized that such a serious man would first convince himself of the truth before sharing it. How can I get rid of her? Legally, of course. I certainly don't need any more problems right now, Tiffany asked. I suggest you meet with her and talk. Also, here's an envelope with the DNA test results. Michael Ivanovich, upon my request, decided to verify whether the child was his. He resisted initially, but I was persistent. Unfortunately, he didn't live to see the result. You can open the envelope. It gives you another reason not to share your late husband's wealth. You are indeed my saviour. I'm so glad we have you. Your instincts are excellent, and your experience is immense. I can't thank you enough. Tiffany, not knowing how else to express her gratitude to the lawyer, promised him a generous cash bonus if things went smooth. Tiffany got the phone number of her husband's mistress from the lawyer. She immediately messaged her, stating she was waiting for her at the agreed location. 3 days later, Deanna agreed to meet. This resolved one of Tiffany's concerns. She was confident about the outcome of the case because the result in the envelope was positive, but only for Tiffany. Energized by her small success, the widow returned home and completed her cleaning tasks. She decided to forget Bradley. Whether he was a beggar or a con artist didn't matter because life goes on, and it was time to introduce some brighter colours into her life. Hi, Nick. I've been a bit swamped lately. Are we still on for our meeting? Tiffany sent a casual message to Nick. Hi. Yes, I'd love to meet, but I can't today. Can we meet tomorrow during lunchtime at my office? Nick, without any hint of the grudges that often plagues men of his age, suggested a convenient first meeting. Yes. He wouldn't see her in her stunning evening dress and makeup, and her elegant stilettos that would be replaced by modest casual shoes, but the important thing was that they were finally going to meet. Tiffany spent the rest of the day alone, scrolling aimlessly through social media posts. The day of the meeting with Nick arrived. Tiffany dressed elegantly for their lunch date and set off to meet her online interest. Driving up to the meeting place, Tiffany saw that Nick was already waiting for her, holding an incredibly beautiful basket of flowers. Tiffany, hello. You look very elegant. These are for you, the charming man said, handing her the basket of flowers. He then began to inspect her car, assessing the damage from the accident. Nick, thank you. It's my pleasure, Tiffany responded, feeling elated. The man was even more attractive than in his photos. Tiffany, let me help with the repair. I know someone nearby who can fix your car up in a couple of days, Nick offered. Tiffany was unsure how to react, unused to having a man's assistance. There's no need. I'll handle it myself. I just haven't had the time or inclination to arrange the repair, she replied. Don't worry about it. Let's have lunch now, and afterward, I'll take care of everything, Nick assured her. The date was a success. Tiffany was captivating, and Nick was entirely smitten by her charm. After lunch, as promised, Nick helped with the car repairs, covered all the bills, and ordered a cab for Tiffany. Despite his tight schedule, he offered to be her driver, promising to find time for her. 5 days later, Tiffany called her friend Heidi and invited her to dinner. It was time to share everything that had happened to her, but at the time for the meeting, Tiffany felt unwell. Hi, Tiffany, are you feeling okay? Heidi asked, concerned. Oh, it's just a stomachache. Maybe I overate at breakfast, said Tiffany, and began to recount everything, starting from the accident. Girlfriend, what were you thinking? You brought a swindler into your house and spent the night with him? You are acting like a fool. 1.5 years after her husband's death, she's been turning down suitors, and now she's with a homeless man. Heidi scolded her friend, unable to comprehend why her beloved Tiffany had taken such actions. Believe it or not, you would have done the same in my shoes. He was so charming and confident. I helped him, cleaned him up. It's unbelievable. How could he have lied so blatantly to my face? Tiffany tried to justify her actions, but even to her, her words sounded absurd and outlandish. "Well, my friend, you've lost your mind. You haven't even reported him to the police for the thefts. Why don't we go and do it now?" "I don't want to report it. I'm ashamed of myself. A woman in her almost 40s, bringing a homeless man into her house. Nope, I won't humiliate myself like that." Tiffany rejected all pleas to report the incident. "I realize it does sound absurd, but even the news has reported on this gang, as you say. Maybe I should have testified." The friends argued for a few more minutes when suddenly Tiffany felt so unwell that her face turned green. "Gosh, Tiffany, what on earth did you eat on that makes you so nauseous?" Heidi voiced her concern for her friend. "I didn't eat anything unusual. I must have been nervous. They say that all illnesses start from nerves." "That's right. You've had a lot on your plate these last couple of weeks." The friends discussed many aspects of Tiffany's life, both important and trivial. By nightfall, she was alone. She didn't want to sleep, and besides, Nick began to flood her with messages, and then called. "Tiffany, I like you very much. I think about you all these days. My colleagues saw you at the lunch that day. They all encouraged me not to miss the chance with such a beauty. I'm sure I made the right choice." Nick had clearly fallen in love. At his age, pretending to be an innocent young man and remaining silent about his feelings seemed silly for him. "I'm very flattered by your words, Nick. I'm fond of you too. You make me feel like a truly delicate woman," Tiffany responded, not wanting to mince words. She had already encountered plenty of insinuation and surprises in her life. "Then why not move in with me?" Nick proposed, surprising her. "So soon? I'm sorry, but I'm not ready yet. Give me some time. Let's meet more often and see how it goes," Tiffany suggested. This dampened Nick's spirits somewhat, but his determination to win over Tiffany remained. He agreed to her terms. "Tiffany, feel free to call or write to me at any time. I'll gladly help you in any way I can, I promise," Nick assured her. They said their goodbyes. Everything seemed fine with Nick, but Tiffany couldn't stop thinking about Bradley. Nick was perfect in every way, but Bradley had wormed his way into her heart, and as it turned out, had no intention of leaving. 3 days later, Tiffany went to meet her late husband's mistress. "Let's not mince words, Deanna. What you did with your manipulations was despicable. I'll chalk it up to your immaturity. Although I could have taken more drastic action after such a nasty stunt." Tiffany began the conversation, confident in herself and her strength. "Glad you liked the surprise. Did you bring the money? Give it to me, quickly. I'm running late for the beauty parlor." Deanna, sensing her winning position, was not expecting any surprises. "I brought it. Here, take a look." Tiffany handed her an envelope. "What's this?" "Open it. See for yourself." Tiffany was tempted to make a few jabs about Deanna's intelligence, but chose to spare her the embarrassment. "A DNA analysis? 0% kinship? This has to be fake." Deanna was livid when she saw the shocking document. "It's completely authentic. Michael took the DNA test. Look at the date. Sadly, he died without knowing that he had no biological offspring. Maybe it's better that way. At least in heaven he'll be content knowing he left behind a legacy." Tiffany paused, then continued assertively, "And you're a fraud. Forget about my family's money and my home address. You won't get a cent," Tiffany said, then left a few bills on the table for their coffee and cab fare home, and turned to the exit. Deanna shouted obscenities at her back, but Tiffany brushed off the harsh words. She had already put the home wrecker in her place. Content with herself, Tiffany indulged in shopping, sipped champagne, enjoyed tiramisu, and realized she could confidently announce, "A new life begins." "Hurry, hurry! The woman from the 7th ward is going into labour. Her water's broken!" echoed a shout from the corridor of the private maternity hospital in the capital. In the operating room, the face of a joyful Tiffany was clearly visible. 9 months ago, she had unexpectedly become pregnant on one of the most peculiar days of her life. "Will my baby be okay?" Tiffany, more concerned about her baby than herself, asked anxiously. "Of course. You're fit enough to have 3 more. All young women should be as healthy as you," the midwife reassured her with encouraging words. The labour went smoothly. Heidi, along with her husband and children, greeted Tiffany as she left the maternity hospital. They showered her with gifts and promised to help with the newborn. "Unexpected happiness has come to you, my dear. It's no wonder." Heidi was certain that the arrival of the child would bring special meaning to her friend's life. "And I'm glad that the time of worrying over the unexpected pregnancy has passed." "Heidi, I was foolish. I was scared of raising a child alone, but then I collected myself and realized that, with my abilities, I'll raise the most educated and successful young man. You'll see." Tiffany named her son Bradley, hoping to maintain some connection between him and his absent father. Despite her friend's objection, Tiffany was firm in her decision. She held no grudges, and now she was forever grateful for his priceless gift. As a single mother, Tiffany faced no unusual difficulties. It was as if she were born to be a mother. She often wondered why she hadn't conceived with her husband, when she had become pregnant after just one night with another man. But such speculation was pointless. Tiffany loved taking her baby for walks, so she made a point of going out as often as possible. One day, while in the nearest park, a woman called out to her. "Tiffany, is that you?" the woman asked. "Oh, Mrs. McNeely. It's been a long time." "We're neighbours, but we don't run into each other often," Tiffany responded, glad for the company. "I'm always at my son's country house. It's so beautiful there that I hardly want to return to the city. By the way, congratulations on the birth of this adorable boy." The neighbours exchanged polite pleasantries, but then Mrs. McNeely blurted out, "Where's your groom, Nick? I haven't seen you two together in months. What happened? Why isn't he living with you and his son?" "He wasn't as perfect as I thought, Mrs. McNeely." Tiffany refrained from revealing that he wasn't the father, keen to avoid unnecessary gossip. "All men are the same. Anyway, you'll manage on your own, dear. You're wealthy and educated. It's not that difficult to raise a child if you have money and intellect." Mrs. McNeely's words hit the mark. "You're right, Mrs. McNeely. I have the resources, and my Bradley won't lack anything. Thank you for your support," Tiffany responded. The women continued their stroll around the park before heading home. The concerns about her child brought Tiffany joy. She couldn't fathom how she had lived without her son before. She had missed out on so much. But as they say, everything happens in its own time. Years passed and Bradley started first grade. "Bradley, how was your first day at school? Did you like it?" Tiffany wanted to know every detail because school marked a new phase in her son's life. "Mummy, it's great. There are so many kids. I've already made friends with Paul and Molly. They're really cool." Bradley was clearly delighted. "And what do you think of Ms. Jones? She will be your teacher for the next years." "Mum, she's nice. She praised me when I read the alphabet without mistakes," the first grader said with a proud look. "You're a good boy. Make sure Miss Jones continues to praise you. I'm confident you'll do well, my dear." Tiffany was overjoyed to hear about her son's success. "Mum, can we get ice cream?" "Ah, let's go." It didn't take long to convince the loving mother. The small family, composed of a mother and her son, joyfully entered the nearest cafe. "Ice cream for us, please," Bradley ordered. "What flavour would you like? Or do you want a mix?" asked the young waitress, pulling out a notebook to jot down the order. "Mix! Chocolate, strawberry, and let's have cherry." The boy picked his favourite flavours. The waitress left to get their order, and Tiffany was left stunned. She thought she saw Bradley. Not her son, but her child's father leaving the cafe. It's unbelievable, Tiffany whispered almost inaudibly.
Mum, what? What did you say?
Her son didn't understand her. Nothing, honey, nothing. A few more months passed. Bradley was studying diligently, and Tiffany was pleased with his progress. Life was improving, and everything went on as usual. Once again, while waiting at the school gate for her son, Tiffany spotted the man who resembled Bradley's father among the passers-by. She felt herself slipping into madness, occasionally drifting back to the past. She promptly pushed these thoughts aside and promised herself to avoid such nonsense. She was a mother now, and she decided there would be no more men in her life, at least until her son was grown. She was content with her small family. On the weekend, she visited Heidi and her family. Little Bradley adored his mother's friend and her children. Heidi often treated him with gifts and treats.
Aunt Heidi, I'm so glad to see you,
he said, and smiled to his godmother. Mummy tells me you enjoy school. Have you made any friends? Asked Heidi.
Yes, I've made many new friends. I even invited them to play this weekend. They promised they would come. Right, Mum?
Bradley asked Tiffany, who was busy setting the table.
Yes, Sonny, now eat up before your food goes cold, responded Tiffany.
After dinner, Bradley retreated to his room to play with Heidi's kids. Heidi, I have something to tell you, but keep it quiet, okay? Tiffany felt the need to share her suspicions, even though they might be just figments of her imagination. She was unsure of what to make of it. What is it? Hurry up and spill, or I'll die from curiosity, Heidi urged her friend. I think I've spotted Bradley's father, Tiffany confessed. Seriously, Tiffany? That good-for-nothing drifter? Heidi exclaimed in disbelief. Quiet, for heaven's sake, we can't let Bradley overhear. Yes, but he was dressed decently, and he didn't resemble a tramp in the slightest. You could be mistaken, you know. You mention that scoundrel so often, you might have started seeing things, Heidi pointed out. I thought the same, but I've seen him twice, and it couldn't have been a hallucination both times. You've truly stunned me. I'm at a loss for words. The friends chatted for a few more hours, trying to figure out why he could show up, and if he was really there. Heidi, thank you. I've said my piece and I feel relieved. I'm going to treat it as a figment of my imagination, Tiffany said at the end of the evening. Absolutely, friend. There's no need to dwell on the past, especially with men like your dear con artist. There are plenty of them. That day, Tiffany went to bed later than usual. She confessed to herself that she would love to see and talk to her son's father again. She had cherished their one night together all these years. Yes, he turned out to be a liar and a thug, but what can one do about the heart's desires? Tiffany fell asleep, but even in her dreams, she couldn't escape the image of the man who had captivated her. The next morning, Tiffany took Bradley to school and went to the supermarket. Tiffany? A man approached the woman closely as she selected fresh bread and her son's favourite rolls. Her heart froze, then pounded fiercely, then froze again. This cycle continued until heavy male hands spun her around. Tiffany stood frozen, locking eyes with Bradley, the man who had stolen her heart years ago. He seemed unchanged, still the handsome, confident man she remembered. Tiffany, what's wrong? Don't be scared, it's me. Bradley tried to calm her. You, she managed to stammer. Yes, Tiffany, it's me. I know I've behaved terribly, but... He didn't get to finish. Tiffany dropped her groceries and bolted out of the store. Tiffany, wait, don't be foolish, he called after her, but she was already in her car, pushing the accelerator to the floor, fleeing from Bradley, or perhaps from herself. After driving several kilometers, she had to pull over. She was struggling to breathe and felt so ill that she was dizzy. God, it was him! I'm not crazy! Tiffany screamed in desperation. She couldn't understand why she had run away from him. She had replayed their meeting in her head countless times. She had wanted this meeting, had dreamed of it. "You're blocking the exit," a voice called from the partially opened car window. "What? I'm sorry," Tiffany responded, confused. "You're blocking the exit. Move," the stranger repeated. "Oh, sure, sorry," Tiffany said as she attempted to maneuver her car. In doing so, she accidentally scraped her bumper against the door of the man who had so ardently requested her to move. "Oh, come on. Where are your eyes?" the angry driver exclaimed, exiting his car. Tiffany had no choice but to get out of her car as well. "Are you out of your mind? Parking in an unauthorized place, and you can't even drive," the man accused. Tiffany looked at her accuser, unable to figure out where she had seen him before. He seemed eerily familiar. "Can you hear me? Wait, your face looks familiar," the driver exclaimed in surprise. "Mrs. Jackson, is that really you? It's been so many years. I'm Lee, the courier. Do you remember me?" "Lee? Yes, I do remember you. You've grown so much. Very mature," Tiffany said, shocked. 2 unexpected encounters in one day. She didn't know whether to feel happy or upset. "And you're still young and beautiful. I was so in love with you back then. I used to wait for your parcels, but they stopped coming. I was too shy to visit. Such a naive fool," Lee said, laughing. "Really? I'm at least 15 years older than you. Don't be silly," Tiffany said, embarrassed by his confession. "Mrs. Jackson." "Tiffany, just Tiffany. You're no longer a courier, I see, and you've grown up. We can drop the formalities," she interrupted. "Tiffany, I'm sorry. Why don't we go and have a cup of tea?" Lee suggested suddenly. "Okay. I need to unwind more than ever." Tiffany accepted his offer. It felt like a lifeline to her at the moment. The long-time acquaintances spent a pleasant time together, forgetting the minor traffic accident. They exchanged phone numbers and parted ways, each with a warm feeling in their hearts. Later, Tiffany picked up Bradley from school. His new drawings lifted her spirits. She thought her son was really talented, but his father, she knew almost nothing about him. "Mum, why are you sad today?" Bradley seemed to notice her emotions. "I just missed you while you were at school, baby." "Let's go to the supermarket," she replied. Tiffany and Bradley spent an hour at the store. After returning home, she cooked a delicious dinner, and they watched cartoons together. "Mum, you said Dad went far away. Will he be coming back?" "He has to come back, doesn't he?" Bradley's sudden questions felt like a bucket of cold water to Tiffany. Bradley, he's not coming back. He has a lot of work and can't leave it to just come home. Now, let's watch your cartoon." "See that cool superhero? Would you like us to buy you a costume like that?" Tiffany tried to change the subject, but her son persisted. "Mum, why? Paul's dad is home every day. He even picks him up from school. Can't my dad work somewhere close to home? Why does he have to go so far away?" "My darling, you see, life isn't always that simple." Just then, there was a doorbell. "Bradley, watch your cartoon. I'll open the door and be right back. Then you can tell me who else the superhero saved," said Mum, giving her son a task and hurrying to the hallway. The woman opened the door, taken aback. In the doorway stood Bradley, her child's father, holding a large bouquet. "Hello again, Tiffany," said the man, dropping to his knees. "God, get up! What are you doing? What do you want?" Tiffany panicked, worried her son might hear the unfamiliar voice and be scared. "Forgive me. Forgive this fool. I'll do everything for you. I've thought of you every minute. Tiffany, I'm sorry." The woman wanted to tell him everything she thought about him, but she was worried that the neighbours might witness the unfolding drama. "Come inside. We don't need the neighbours to start gossiping," she insisted, barely managing to stay upright. The man who had been the cause of her heartache for nearly 8 years was now in her apartment again. She led him quietly to the kitchen, trying not to distract little Bradley. "What do you want from me?" Tiffany tried to hide her trembling lips, but Bradley noticed every emotion that crossed her face. "Please listen. Back then, I lost my business. My wife left me, and I fell into bad company. Yes, I cheated you, set you up and stole from you. I admit it all. I'm ready to go to the police and turn myself in. If you want to file a report against me, go ahead. I deserve it." "Bradley, all of that is in the past. I've moved on. I'm not the same person I was. Please, leave." "No, Tiffany, I can't live without you. Every year without you was pure agony. I fell in love with you back then, but after what I did, I couldn't bear to look you in the eyes." "You could do. You had the audacity to cheat and steal, yet you lacked the decency to repent. I've already forgotten and forgiven you. That's all." Tiffany summed it up, although she didn't believe her own words. "I beg your pardon. I'll return every cent I stole. Honey, I want to take you with me. I have a large house, a prestigious job. I've risen from poverty, and now I've come to make you the happiest you've ever been." "You already have," Tiffany retorted, quickly realizing she wanted to change the subject. "What do you mean?" "Tiffany?" "Nothing. It's just sarcasm. Now leave. Get out of my house." Her tone escalated. "It didn't sound like sarcasm. Is there something you need to tell me? Please don't hide anything." Bradley sensed something amiss. "No, I have nothing to tell. Just how much I've cursed you all these years. You used me and ran away. What a humiliation." "Sweetheart, calm down. I know there's no forgiveness for me, but please give me a chance. I'll make it up to you," the man said, taking Tiffany's hand and leaning his cheek against it.
"Bradley, do you have any idea how I felt that day? I was alone with this vile situation."
Tiffany could no longer hold back her tears.
I know, darling. Calm down. If you knew, you wouldn't have run away like the last scoundrel."
She fell into Bradley's arms and finally felt at home. She didn't want to determine who was right or guilty. She could feel his breathing and the rhythm of his heart, which gave her strength.
"Mum, why are you crying? Who is this man?"
Little Bradley appeared in the kitchen suddenly and quietly.
"Mum, is it my dad?"
he continued to ask his confused mother and father.
"Tiffany, he's my copy! Jesus! Tiffany, how can you explain this to me?"
Bradley was mesmerized as he looked at the boy, not understanding what was happening.
"Yes, honey, it's your daddy. He's back,"
was all Tiffany could manage to say.
"Daddy, Daddy, you won't work so far away anymore. You're here for good, right?"
"Tiffany, is it true? Answer me, Tiffany." Bradley awaited this answer like a blessing from above. "Yes, meet Bradley, your son, our son."
"Dad, let's go watch cartoons. There's a superhero. You're my superhero too, right? You're going to protect Mummy now. Let's go, Dad."
Bradley grabbed the hand of both his dad and Mum. After all these years, the whole family was together. Tiffany looked at her son and his father, feeling truly happy. She would have managed raising a child alone, but having a father for her son made a world of difference. Even though Bradley initially stumbled, the most important thing was that he had come back to them, making their lives much more joyful and fulfilling.